Back here trying to crack some jacks. It is vlog number 133. The first thing to point out is the next couple of vlogs I'm going to shoot in Vegas. Going to head down there on October 4th. Going to look to shoot a couple episodes of my series Silver State Sites. And of course jump in some cash games. I'm going to play at the Wynn. I'm going to play at Resorts World and maybe one other place. So if you see me around, feel free to say what's up. Second of all, in lieu of a question of the week this week, well, I'm calling somebody out. And I got this idea while listening to a recent podcast. And I'll turn that on while I'm driving around so you can hear what I'm talking about and why it inspired me to do this. And as far as what podcast I'm talking about, well, I'll just say I'm wearing this tank top today in honor of it.
I kick things off with poker's equivalent of a bunt single. I raise ace king of diamonds pre-flop and get one OMC caller to 7-4-3-2 diamonds, and my bet takes it down with no resistance. Then, under the gun limps and +2 raises to 15, and I pick up king jack of spades on the button and make the call, as does the limper. So with 45 in, it comes king queen 10 rainbow with the queen of spades. +2 bets 25. I call, and under the gun calls as well. So with 120 in, the turn is the 10 of spades. Very interesting card for me, and it gets checked to me. I decide to try and take this down right now, and I bet 100. And my first royal flush will still have to wait, as both fold, but I'm not complaining. I then try a squeeze over a button straddle with ace-jack. The button defends with ace-10. And we chop up money from our 4 other $15 callers on a double-paired board. I then call a $25 raise with the deuces on the button, and we go 4 ways to queen deuce 4, 2 clubs, giving me bottom set. The original raiser bets out 30, and the cutoff folds. I decide to slow play here, and under the gun calls as well. So with 190 in, the turn is the 3 of clubs. Check to me, and I bet out for 40. Under the gun folds, and +1, an unknown older gentleman. Check raises to 150. I call, so with 490 in. The river is a disgusting 10 of clubs, proving that pairing the board when you need to do so is a task often comparable to climbing Mount Everest. He bets out for 300 and I snap fold. He later would tell me that he turned the flush, which given the fact that he check raised there, doesn't really come as a surprise. So that club on the river was better than a blank for me because it saved me money potentially. I then raise pre-flop with pocket 10s and flop quads. And what do you expect? My lone opponent makes the call in late position. And after I check to him on this slightly above average board, he bets out for 30. Now this is a tough guy to get much action out of. So I thought that a stop and go play might be ideal. I figured that check raising the flop might scare him out immediately due to fear of action on future streets, but if I just led the turn, the finish line would then be in sight. So with 100 in, the turn comes the 7 of spades. I continue with my plan. I bet out for 50, and he calls. So with 200 in, the river is the 5 of clubs, bringing in the front door club draw. I decide to bet fairly big here, hoping that he has either hit that draw or will choose to be stubborn with ace-king. I bet 150, and he snap folds, almost like he had queen-jack and not a king, but both are possible. We get a limp fest, and I raise king 10 of clubs to 40 in the cutoff in an effort to take the pot down. Per usual, when I try that, it doesn't work. The big blind calls and a VIP in middle position calls. So with 135 in, the flop is 6-3-4, 2 clubs. Check to me, and with the second nut flush draw, I fire $80. Big blind folds, but MP calls. So with 295 in, the turn is another 3. He checks. Now I fire 150, trying to get him off of top pair or have him call me with a weaker draw, which he's capable of doing. Rather than call me, he now check raises to 325. As I mentioned, this is a VIP, and he bluffs quite often. If he has a 3, I'll likely get paid off if I hit, but I still think it's likely he doesn't have anything anyway. So I think it's a call. With 945 in, the river is a king. And now he checks. Normally I'd consider a value bet here, but in this case, I just check back because he knows that I'll value bet thinly and occasionally will check raise me. And again, my read was basically a 3 or nothing, so instead he ends up showing 5-6 for just a pair of sixes, so I needed that king but was in good shape on the turn regardless. I didn't get video, but the next hand was a single raise pot with 1 rake and a woman from out of town. I call it a $15 raise with pocket 4s from the big blind, and she comes in from the button. With 45 in, the flop is ace, queen, 9, rainbow. I check, as do both of them. The turn is a 4. I bet out for 25, and only this woman calls. So with 95 in, the river pairs the 9, giving me a full house. I bet 100, which is technically an overbet. And to my astonishment, she min raises to 200. I honestly was unsure if I should 3-bet here or not. The rule of thumb is this. Some older ladies are crazy, but unless they prove that, expect they always have the nuts. In this case, I hope that she just had 3 9s. So I click it back, making it 300, and she snap calls. So we have a $695 pot. I show my hand, and she shows ace 9 for the bigger boat. 5 minutes later, all of a sudden, she has some place to be. I continue to hold the title of guy who gets hit and run more than anyone. I play for a little while longer, rack up, and book the win. All right, just cashed out booking a $382 win. Got $175 in bonus money from that QUADS hand, which helped towards that. As far as the 2 big hands, I'm not all that happy with myself on either one of them. I definitely should have value bet a pair of kings on the river with the king 10 of clubs against that particular opponent. Even though, obviously, as I mentioned, it would have been a disaster if I got check raised and would have had to make a decision there. And I guess I could have just called with 4s full of 9s because it just didn't feel like she was the type to raise with just trip 9s there. All right, there is one more thing I have to do on this edition of the vlog, and in all honesty, I hate the fact that I have to do it. But when you're a public figure, the downside to that is, well, there's no stopping people from talking about you and telling the truth about you. And the most famous poker player ever to call Reno his home, at least that I know, is Yukon Brad Booth. I've vlogged some hands against him in the past, and as I've stated in the past, he could not be a nicer guy. Kind of the Canadian stereotype proving true. But come to find out, well, he's just a lying, thieving scumbag. And I know this for a variety of reasons, one of which is a friend of mine, and I'm not going to tell you guys who, but a friend of mine backed him in one of the games, and well, he of course disappeared without ever paying him the money that he owed him, which is a significant sum. But I was just listening to the Doug Polk podcast, and you're never going to believe how stupid Brad Booth is accused of being. And I know he's going to deny the story told by Mike Matisow. Part of me is starting to think that it's true. So as I drive down the streets of downtown Reno, heading over to work here on a Saturday, I want you guys to have a listen to what possibly the most famous poker player to have played in my game did.
When I see guys like Brad Booth who still owes me money, and then he's in the pit, and I get people, he messaged me, Doug, oh, I'm going to make this right. By the way, Brad, if you're listening, you haven't paid me any money in years. You know, Brad would be in the pit, gambling it off, running up bets to other people, and making these mistakes repeatedly. And then even if he's not thinking, oh, I'm going to scam Doug for $30K here, he just happened to scam me, at some point, you can't just hide behind that. You are a fucking scumbag. I mean, that day comes.
He got fucking Patrick Antonius for $364,000. You know what I'm saying? And the truth about it, here's the thing about Brad. And again, I like the guy. I think he's sick. But this guy was set for life. He had Guy Liberté, fucking staking him. Okay, when you watch that high stake episode where he ripped 300,000 against fucking Ivy, and Ivy folds the 2 kings or whatever with like deuce 4 offsuit, whatever. Like Guy Liberté was putting him in, right? And Guy Liberté said straight out, "I will stake you forever. Just don't play PLO. You can only play Hold'em," right? And then online the next day, he empties the account playing PLO, and Guy Liberté cuts him off. And the guy was set for life. All he had to do was just not play PLO. Just play only Hold'em, and Guy would have just kept putting him in forever. That's a guy that's a
Unbelievable.
That's just the most dumbest thing. We used to talk about that all the time. Like the dumbest things nobody's ever been in a spot where you have Guy Liberté like loves you to death. You go out on his yacht with him. He loves you. Once you get a guy like that loves you to do anything for. How do you fucking do that? You know what I'm saying? So he fucked himself.
I mean, that's insane. That's not just scumbag territory. It's actually in a different category. It's insanity.
I don't even know
you have a billionaire. You have a literal billionaire who has signed up to give you money and says there's one rule.
You can't.
Don't break the one rule.
I swear to God, that's the only rule.
What's he gonna do about it?
I mean, think about like all the crazy things people have done. It's like the only rule, you have a billionaire that's going to put you in any poker game for the rest of your life. He loves you to death. The only rule, don't play PLO, just only hold him. And then you go and you empty the account playing PLO. I'm sorry, but
what if it was all the PLO game?
Poker, that's got to be like up in the top 2, maybe top 1,
But he had the fallback plan of scamming me for $30K in an online transfer, right? When you got that in your back,
scamming Patrick Antonius for $364,000. He said, "Oh, Guy will pay you back tomorrow," but Guy had already cut him off.
Okay, to recap this once again, Brad Booth bailed on Reno last July. And judging by the timeline of the text that he had sent me, it was almost as if I was the last guy that he texted before he took off that day when talking about a game we were playing in a couple of nights back. Really bizarre. I mean, I obviously didn't see it coming. I ran a piece on Channel 8 about it because I was worried about the guy. Word surfaced later that he's fine, but he's just not announcing where he is or what's going on with him. But we do know that he's okay. I didn't know until after all that about the situation with the friend of mine who had lent him the money, put him in a game, and he had, of course, lost all that money and clearly was never going to be able to pay it back. And then when you listen to those stories, like on the Doug Polk podcast, it's just amazing. And I know that Brad Booth will say that those stories aren't true. But can you imagine if they are? Because part of me kind of thinks that they are. Guy Liberté, the founder of Cirque du Soleil, saying, "I'll back you, I'll stake you, just don't play PLO." And the next day he's on there playing PLO. And apparently he owes Doug a lot of money, as you heard, and he owes Patrick Antonius a lot of money. So God knows how many more people this freaking guy owes money to. It's unbelievable. And I really thought that he was just a professional poker player. Just kind of a grinder type when I first met him. Then I was walking through the Peppermill one day, and I saw him just sitting in a slot machine, just playing slots. And it was like, it's just a little thing. Obviously, it's not the end of the world. But if you're a professional poker player and you make your living playing poker, there is one thing that you cannot do, and that is play slots or go play craps. You cannot gamble on anything else if you want to make it as a poker pro. You can't do it. That's how so many good poker players have lost their money over the years, and maybe with him that was the case. But man, to go from being at the top of the poker world in terms of fame, bluffing out Phil Ivey on high stakes poker, to being a guy who's just seemingly begging and borrowing and stealing his way to a bankroll and then disappearing when it all goes south. I mean, obviously you kind of feel bad for the guy, but at the same time, it's just aggravating, and I am pissed at the guy. So I've had a lot of people ask me about him in the comments over the last couple of years, and I wasn't going to bring him up because he was always so nice to me, even though I knew never to lend him any damn money. But now that he's done this, I just can't give the guy a pass, and I got to call him out. That's why I wanted to mention that for those of you that have been following this blog for any length of time and remember the time where he used to, play hands against me. on this vlog. That'll wrap things up for us today. Hey, check me out on Poker Bros. If you haven't already, I think you'll like the action. My group is called High Society, and you don't even need 3 stacks of it to play. Just click the link in the description below. You can sign up. It's easy, and you can play on your phone whenever you want. If you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe buttons. It's great for this channel. I truly appreciate that, and we will see you next time from Vegas.